All right, showtime. You ready?
Born ready.
Great. Did you bring the dongle?
What's a dongle?
Never mind. We'll just show them on your laptop.
I was supposed to bring my laptop?
Don't panic. You shared the presentation with me, right?
I forgot.
Well, if you log in, then we can...
My password. I was about to say I forgot my password.
You ordered the food through EasyCater, right?
Yes?
We'll be fine.
Food can make or break a presentation, so make sure you order at EasyCater.com. Individually packaged food delivered right on time. How? EasyCater.
The weather's getting warmer, and everybody wants to be outside, even your smart speaker. Crank up your favorite Odyssey stations on your Amazon Echo, Google Nest, or Apple HomePod at the pool or while you're grilling. Get your summer soundtrack from stations across the USA, from top 40 to rock, R&B to country. It's all here on Odyssey. Play your favorite station at your command, hands-free on your smart speaker. Your summer soundtrack is part of a universe of audio on Odyssey.
Anytime is a good time to talk football. Anytime at all. It's After Hours with Amy Lawrence. Thanks for joining us. We're live from the Rocket Mortgage Studios. Do you want to see your loan options, adjust payments and closing costs online in real time? Rocket can. We've now put a poll up as well. So you've got a question or a post that you can respond to on Twitter, but you've also got a poll. And then on Facebook, a lot of you weighing in and treating it as though it is a poll. Who would you draft if you had the second overall pick coming up 2 weeks from Thursday, if you're the Jets? Now, maybe you want to answer the question of the third pick. If the Jets go with Zach Wilson, like many are expecting, many are reporting, many are speculating, then what do you do with the number 3 pick if you're the Niners? Dave posts this on Facebook. I say Justin Fields should be the number 2 pick, but for his sake, I hope he isn't. Much better situation with the Niners at number 3. Well, it depends on what you value. If you're a quarterback or any prospect who wants to get out there and play immediately, and that matters to you more than joining a winning team that's already got a quarterback or another guy that's at your position, keeping you from cracking that starting lineup, there are plenty of athletes out there who tell you they'd rather play on a bad team and be a star. There are many athletes who would rather be big fish in a small pond as opposed to being on a ready-made team that is much closer to winning, where you may ride the pine or the metal. So it's really a matter of preference. So whether it's number 2, whether it's number 3, I'm interested in your perspective. Yeah, the Niners aren't looking for a starting quarterback. Of course, neither were the Chargers when they drafted Justin Herbert a year ago. And if Jimmy Garoppolo can't stay healthy, this rookie may be pressed into service. But there are teams that are looking for quarterbacks and trying to find young quarterbacks, maybe not the first round or the first 5 picks, but they're not looking for a guy to start right now. They're looking for their next quarterback they can train and bring along. You don't think Patrick Mahomes could have excelled as a rookie with the Chiefs? Oh, yeah. I think he would have been just fine. But Alex Smith was playing well. And Andy Reid made the decision, the Chiefs made the decision to keep Patrick Mahomes in a reserve role until the very end of his rookie year, when they'd seen enough in practice and were ready to unleash him on the NFL. A Super Bowl MVP, an NFL MVP, and how many yards and dazzling moments later seems to be the right formula for one Patrick Mahomes. Man, I haven't talked about him in a while. I miss talking about Patrick Mahomes. It's After Hours with Amy Lawrence. So on Twitter, After Hours CBS, we've got the poll up and a spot where you can weigh in, and lots of you finding us on Facebook. Also, I want to say thank you for your responses and your reaction to the conversation we had with Jason Romano of Sports Spectrum. It's a different kind of conversation. It wasn't sports heavy, so to speak. But on our last show, our Hump Show, Jason joined us from Denver, and we dug deeper into topics like faith and family, leadership, and he shared that great story from Pete Carroll. Perspective, the power of social media for good or evil. And if you haven't heard it, it's definitely worth your time. It's on our Facebook page as well as up on my Twitter, A-Law Radio. So we try to do a lot of different perspectives and share a lot of different perspectives on this show. And to that end, in 30 minutes, we're going to look at Jackie Robinson through a different lens. Myth versus real man. A lot of what we believe about Jackie Robinson, or we think we know about Jackie Robinson in 2021, isn't accurate or isn't the big picture, isn't the total picture. I'm really excited to talk about him a little bit more because Thursday is Jackie Robinson Day. And I'm a history buff, and I want to make sure my history is accurate. I just remember, this is still crazy to me. Producer Dave, I don't think you were working with us at the time, but going back, say, 4 years maybe, we had this entire discussion on the show, Tom and Isaac and I, about how there are people in this world walking the earth today who think Titanic is just a movie and didn't actually happen. And I dare say that's not a unique event. I dare say there are many events or historical moments that took place going back that people think are just movies because that's where they've seen them. So there's a Jackie Robinson movie out. There's documentaries done. Well, we want to get the full perspective. And also Titanic was definitely real and a lot of people died. Can you believe that? Please make sure that your kids do not grow up thinking the Titanic is just a movie.
While they've seen the movie and they like the movie, they do understand that it was based on a real event. It's not quite not knowing who A-Rod is, but there's people who don't know a lot of things, unfortunately, and we need to teach ourselves, learn ourselves, all of the above.
Do you believe that's true? Anthony Edwards didn't know who A-Rod is? I kind of feel like there's no way he could have been that good of an actor. So that's actually him authentically reacting and not knowing that A-Rod is one of the greatest baseball players of all time.
I think that was sincere. I don't think he actually knew who he was.
Oh my gosh. Do you think he knows who J-Lo is?
The odds of that are probably higher, let's be honest.
It's After Hours here on CBS Sports Radio. We'll get to your calls here coming up, 855-212-4CBS on Wednesday night. The most unlikely of no-hit pitchers, but it happened. It happened on the south side of Chicago. This is your headline. Lefty Carlos Rodon pitched a no-hitter. This is a guy who didn't have a team a few months ago following the shortened season of 2020. So amazing. Also, Red Sox have won 9 in a row. The Blue Jays with a walk-off against the Yankees. Luka Doncic nails a game winner only after Grayson Allen, a 90% free throw shooter, misses both of his free throws for the Grizzlies at the other end. Philadelphia 76ers are back into first place after edging the Nets, who didn't have anybody but Kyrie Irving. My God, do you think they have a chart somewhere, a schedule in their locker room? Kyrie plays this day when nobody else is. The rest of you guys can just take the day off. It's time for Kyrie to actually prove he's worth his contract, prove he's worth the salt. Jadeveon Clowney finally finds a new home, and this one with the Cleveland Browns. Myles Garrett, another one of these 1-year, $10 million deals. And so we'll hear from Clowney a little bit later on. Giovanni Bernard will be with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers because everybody's with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in 2022, like 2021. Oh, wait, I got my years mixed up. 2021, like it was in 2020. Wow. I mean, I know I get a lot of numbers mixed up and juxtaposed, but heavens, I actually want to live 2021. I'm not ready to fast forward into 22 yet. I can't help it, you guys. It's been a long week, and it's only night number 4. I have a little bit of stress over the fact that my brother and sister-in-law are showing up in mere hours. I'll get a little bit of sleep, but I've got a bunch of errands to do, and then I have to clean the house. And it's going to be a little more challenging than usual to clean the house because my house isn't a pigsty. I mean, I wouldn't say I'm a clean freak like my sister-in-law, but I'm a neat freak, so I keep up with it pretty well. And it's going to be more challenging because I have a contractor in my house this week. And so he's working in the evenings and he's doing this. It's a relatively small project. He's fixing a wall in my stairwell and he's painting. Well, he had to rip down some wallpaper and then there was an area where he had to repair. And now, well, he primed one night and boy, did that stink. And so I had all the windows open. And then last night he was doing some of the spackling. That also stinks. And so my house smells and there's dirt and not dirt, but dust everywhere and just kind of the residue of this project. And I don't expect him to clean it up, but I did tell him that I've got family coming on Thursday evening. And so he's going to do a pretty short stint on Thursday with some more spackling. And then I told him I need a couple hours to clean up after you. It's like my sister-in-law cannot show up at this house and have it look like this. Absolutely not. Not to mention I have a dog and dog hair and everything else. So I've been putting off the cleaning until he's done on Thursday evening. But that means, of course, that it's going to be quite a chaotic pace between about 8 o'clock and 10:30 when the family cavalry arrives.
Stings the nostrils.
Ooh, yeah, the smell of that primer definitely does. It almost smells like gas. So I did have all my windows open. I was slightly concerned that poor Penny and Sugar, more concerned about Penny, were going to be inhaling that gassy smell. But they were fine this morning.
I'm going to be honest with you. That smells like pure gasoline.
No, natural gas, you idiot, not pure gasoline. All right, 855-212-4CBS. Let's talk to Greg, who's in Alabama.
Hello, Amy. Thanks for taking my call.
You're welcome.
I love your show. I'm a truck driver. I drive every night, and I know this is making an idiot of myself, but I just found you on my Sirius radio.
Boom!
When I would get home, when I would get back every night, I'd turn you on in my truck. And usually I'm back by now, but I'm not back. But tonight I found you on my Sirius radio in my tractor, so I was like,
wait, just
thank
tonight?
God, I finally found her. Yes.
Wow. Okay.
I listen to you every night, though. I do. I listen to you every night.
Well, so it's easy. Just for people who don't know, we have a permanent home on Sirius XM, channel 206. You can always hear us on channel 206.
Yeah, I finally figured that out. But anyway.
Okay.
Mac Jones, Amy, Mac Jones. He's going to be the third pick to the Niners.
I think that's...
And
I'm sorry, go ahead.
The kid's going to show out.
I do think that what we're hearing from people who know him well and not just people who've watched him play in this last season where he put up such incredible numbers on the way to the national championship. People who know him, people who've worked with him and talked to him behind the scenes, spent time with him, they just speak to the cerebral approach, how intelligent he is, that he can make every throw and that he's athletic enough, but that really his understanding of the game and how quickly he can ingest a new system and a playbook and really have an understanding of what the offense is supposed to look like and the various options, but what the offense can do. That's been really impressive to me to hear about. And yeah, he's not Justin Fields when it comes to athleticism, but as one NFL coach said to me, he's athletic enough to play in the NFL.
If he's athletic enough to play in the SEC, he can play in the NFL.
Oh, hey, don't make it sound like the SEC is so much harder than the NFL, Greg. Don't be like that.
No, I didn't say that now. But the kid he's very accurate, and his attitude is he's just so loosey-goosey, he's so humble. He don't get too high, he doesn't get too low. I believe he's a perfect fit for Shanahan's system. And, these quarterbacks, when they come out of college, I would like to know how many quarterbacks, just because they don't fit a system, don't make it in the NFL. Me and a buddy of mine was talking earlier about Brett Favre. He was with the Falcons. If he doesn't get traded to the Packers, we never hear of Brett Favre. And there's so many quarterbacks like that. But I think if Jones goes to the 49ers with Shanahan, I see him. He's going to be a star. I really believe that in my heart.
Well, I do believe that Kyle Shanahan has changed the careers of a lot of quarterbacks, so I wouldn't be surprised by that at all. I don't know if he ends up with the Niners. Yeah, that's a a rumor. I don't know if I'd call it a rumor, a report, an idea that's gaining a lot of traction, that certainly has ever since the Niners moved up to that number 3 spot. But there are also plenty of people out there who believe that they are really interested in Justin Fields. And if the Jets pass on him, they're going to go with Justin, or that Trey Lance could be their choice. I think Kyle Shanahan likes the fact that everybody's guessing right now.
You know, these scouts amaze me. Like this Trey Lance kid, where did he come from? I'm a huge college football fan, and until I heard him mention, maybe early last year where they started, when they started talking about the draft and what quarterback, I heard his name and I thought, who is this kid? I've never heard of him before.
Oh, I think there are a lot of people who hadn't even heard of him until about maybe a month ago. If they didn't watch him play college ball. So, yeah, that's the beauty of not just the NFL draft, but the beauty of sports in general is that we're constantly getting introduced to people who we think come out of nowhere. But, of course, they all have their own stories, and they've all worked really hard to get to where they are.
I'm afraid the Jets are going to strike out again with that Zach Wilson kid. He will not be, he will not be what they think he's going to be.
And you know that how, Greg? You know that how? Because he didn't go to an SEC school?
No. I should have never said anything about the SEC, right? No, the kid got a great arm and great athletic ability, but look at the biggest game he had this year was against, I can't even think of their name now.
Okay, but that doesn't mean he can't do it. It just means he hasn't to this point. It just means that he hasn't had the opportunity. It doesn't mean he can't.
You're correct. You got me there. But he wasn't even a captain of his team. He was just not even, once again, where did he come from? He wasn't even on the radar.
Where did Josh Allen come from, Greg?
I heard about Josh Allen because of his big arm. He had such a gun. I actually watched a special on him. Well, I watched a lot of football, but
there are a lot of people that worried about him.
I understand. Yeah, I get what you're saying, but I just, from BYU, the level of competition at BYU compared to the NFL, that's a big jump.
It is, and maybe it takes him a little longer, but it doesn't mean he can't do it. Again, Josh Allen, Wyoming, doesn't mean you can't do it. It just means you maybe didn't have the same opportunity as a quarterback coming out of the Big Ten or the Big 12 or the SEC. So, yeah, it's different. It's a different stage, but it doesn't mean that you can't figure it out and you can't learn it or that you aren't equipped. Not to mention, raw talent is something that teams will work with, coaches will work with. All right, Greg, I appreciate your phone call. Sirius XM 206, bookmark it.
Thank you very much, Amy. Have a great night.
All right, drive safe. 855-212-4227. We'll get back to your calls. Jadeveon Clowney tells you why he signed with the Browns. And then coming up in about 15 minutes or so, well, it's probably closer to 20 minutes. 20 minutes, we'll welcome an author and editor who's really made it his life's work to pull the curtain back on Jackie Robinson. With Thursday being Jackie Robinson Day around Major League Baseball, it's the perfect time to welcome him to the show.
You are listening to the After Hours Podcast.
In the 1960s, these Midwesterners earned 5 NFL championship trophies. Green Bay Packers? Dennis, go again, I
Tri-title
guess.
for 600.
They swept over the NBA, winning the title every year from 1959 to 1966. Eric?
We're the Boston Celtics.
Oh, you know that one, huh?
This is After Hours with Amy Lawrence.
I actually saw this video, this clip, and Roger's face and the shrug. Are you kidding me? You don't know the Green Bay Packers when I'm standing right in front of you? He's getting rave reviews for hosting Jeopardy. And according to the reports, the producers are very interested in him as a permanent host. I don't know if that's going to happen. I don't know if they'd offer him some kind of a contract like NBC did with Drew Brees, whenever you retire, you can become our permanent replacement. But the problem is, who knows how long that will be. Coming off an MVP season, why in the world would Aaron Rodgers think about retiring, especially as gut-wrenching as the end to this last season? It's After Hours with Amy Lawrence on CBS Sports Radio, 855-212-4227. Before we get to you, Henry, in Houston, Jadeveon Clowney signs a one-year, $10 million deal to join the Cleveland Browns. Relatively high profile in name, the fact that he's a former number one pick, but was limited to 8 games in 2020, largely ineffective in those 8 games for the Tennessee Titans. But now he's with the Browns. And why did he pick Cleveland?
They got a great team. They're definitely on a winning team. You saw they won 12 games last year, right? More than what my team I played for won last year, I think. But I just think they got I just like this division for one. I think it's great competition. Great, like I said, I get to play with great players beside me. That was one of my other decisions. I decided the guys beside me always going to be a help whoever I play with. So me and them two decisions was whoever I'm going to play with. So that was basically it. Who I can play with and who going to help me get to further on in my career.
Throwing some shade at the Titans, even though he would be part of that. So Jadeveon Clowney, 1 year, $10 million, and he's got Myles Garrett in that same defensive scheme with him, which is pretty cool. You can imagine if Clowney can stay healthy, he says he's fully healthy now, that those two guys could wreak some havoc and force offensive lines and offensive coordinators to make some tough decisions.
I've been getting double teamed off a lot in this league my career, and I'm looking forward to playing with somebody dominant on the opposite side, like a Myles Garrett who can draw a double team. Maybe I can go one-on-one more.
It is nice when you've got two pass rushing options that can cause consternation for opposing lines and opposing coordinators, and you can't always double team both. In fact, you can rarely do that. That's why the Bears and certainly the Los Angeles Rams are so much trouble for the teams that they face, because they can hit you multiple ways. And generally the Niners too, although last year they had a bunch of guys injured from that defense. 855-212-4227. Let's talk to Henry, who's in Houston. Welcome to After Hours, Henry.
Yes, ma'am. How you doing, Amy?
I'm good, thank you.
Yes, ma'am. Number 3, it has to be Phil going to the 49ers. If he don't get picked up number 3, you know who's going to pick him up. It's going to be the Patriots. So you have to get him right now at number 3 with the 49ers. He's a reliable passer.
What if he's not there? Are you assuming the Jets aren't going to take him?
No, ma'am. I don't think so. I think he fits good with the 49ers. Somehow he's going to be with the 49ers. He's a passing attacker. He don't rush too much. He pick and choose if he has to rush. I watched the 2019 season with him. He was, like, phenomenal. I mean, 44, I think it was about, 40 touchdowns he had.
Oh, are you asking me? I don't know the exact number, but yes,
okay,
he had a phenomenal season for sure.
Yes, ma'am. 2019, if you're not used to seeing a quarterback, it's just like a new quarterback going to the NFL. It takes time to readjust to a new quarterback. So his second year with the Buckeyes, he did good. His third year, they kind of knew what he was, So he had kind of not a down season because he went to the national championship, but I believe he's going to go, I guess, to the 49ers with Shanahan.
All right.
Also, Amy, I had to ask you a question. If Deshaun Jackson is suspended, what is the other option quarterback for the Texans? Can you help me with that, ma'am?
Meaning who's also on the roster? Or where?
Yes.
Oh, okay, so isn't Tyrod Taylor the backup now in Houston?
Yes, ma'am. I think he is.
Okay.
I know they have only a third-round pick because they draft, or they gave up everything.
Right.
Do you think they can find somebody.
No, I don't think. Well, I guess they could, but I don't think that that's what they would be doing. You're right. Deshaun Watson could face a suspension. There's been some developments in his case. The NFL is obviously monitoring. We can get to that a little bit later on, or you can just Google it. But it's moving slowly, and I don't know what the NFL is going to do. There is talk that he could be on the commissioner's exempt list, or that the NFL could go ahead and preemptively suspend him because they don't need to have convictions to do that. But the Houston Texans are, at least in my opinion, aren't going to compete this year anyway. And I don't think you go into the draft for a stopgap measure unless you're ready to move on from Watson now and you're looking for your next guy. But as you point out, they're not drafting very high. Tyrod Taylor's got some veteran experience. He started a lot of games. He would have been the starter for the Chargers last year if not for that freak injury that was no fault of his own. And then Justin Herbert just played lights out. So I don't know that they're going for a quarterback. I don't think that would be the case. I'm not sure they would bother because I don't think they're going to compete this year anyway, and they've got a brand new coach, so it just may be a wash this year.
Okay, I appreciate that. You have a good day, man, and I listen to you every morning because I work security, so I was on my break. So
awesome.
I always listen to y'all on 610 on CBS.
That's right. All right. Sports Radio 610 in Houston. Henry, thank you so much. We appreciate talking to you. Yeah, it's so up in the air, and it's difficult on David Culley and the rest of the Texans roster. We don't know what's going to happen. And well, like I said, there's been developments, but it's still slow. It's glacial pace. Here comes the draft. 855-212-4227. Straight ahead, though, Thursday is Jackie Robinson Day in Major League Baseball. What's myth and what's actual reality about the man who broke the color barrier in the game?
You are listening to the After Hours Podcast.
Welcome to Play It, a new podcast network featuring radio and TV personalities talking business, sports, tech, entertainment, and more. Play it at play.it.
In the street, Jackie Robinson hit that ball. It went zooming across the left field wall. Yeah, boy. Yeah,
this is After Hours with Amy Lawrence.
Jackie Robinson. He's a myth. He's a movie. He is the man who broke baseball's color barrier. And what we remember about him or think we know about him in 2021 isn't necessarily accurate. So on this Jackie Robinson Day, as we morph into a Thursday, it's a great time to take a look back. It's After Hours with Amy Lawrence on CBS Sports Radio. We're pleased to welcome Michael G. Long, the editor of a brand new book, Jackie Robinson and His Legacy. It's called 42 Today, and it's actually a compilation, which is a neat way to approach the history and to dispel some of the myths about Jackie Robinson. Michael, thanks so much for joining us. There seems to be more and more interest in Jackie year after year as his legend continues to grow. How did this book come together originally?
Believe it or not, I got interested in Jackie Robinson through his civil rights and politics a number of years ago. And recently I thought we need to pay attention more to Robinson's legacy right now because of what's going on in society and culture. And so I wanted us to dig more deeply into Robinson. I wanted us to unfreeze him from 1947, especially April 15th when he breaks the color barrier in Major League Baseball, and present him as a multidimensional figure, somebody who devoted his life to civil rights, not only on the diamond, but also far beyond the diamond, not only during his baseball career, but also long after his baseball career. So that's really how the book came about.
What are some common themes that people will read in the book that are woven throughout the stories that people will tell?
One of the common themes is that Robinson was not a pushover. In 1947, when he breaks the color barrier, he turns the other cheek. This is what he promised Branch Rickey, to turn the other cheek and to swallow all the racist insults that came his way and to soldier on nonviolently. What you discover in the book is that Robinson was not naturally nonviolent. He was not a pacifist. He was not a passive personality by any stretch of the imagination. This was a man with a fiery temper who had to hold it in check, and it was really difficult for him to do in 1947. But we see that fiery temper throughout his life when he's addressing first-class citizenship for Black Americans and facing white backlash and people who want to cut voting rights for Black Americans. Even police brutality, Robinson takes on that theme as well. So we see throughout the book a fiery temper and a really passionate man who's committed to Black freedom.
The book is called 42 Today, Jackie Robinson and His Legacy, and it's a group of collaborators who've come together, and the book is edited by Michael G. Long, who joins us now after hours with Amy Lawrence on CBS Sports Radio. When he broke that color barrier in 1947, a date that we mark on Thursday, what type of reception did he get inside baseball?
Well, he got a great reception from Black fans especially. When he arrived in the locker room, there was no locker for him. His number 42 was on a peg. His jersey was hanging on a peg in the locker room. He got a really high number that year, Amy, 42. That was not a number that people aspired to. Number 4 was available. Number 2 was available. So you can see a little bit how his reception was within the locker room itself. He did not have warm teammates early in 1947. Now, they began to turn around when they saw that he was going to become a Rookie of the Year in 47 and then 49 when he becomes the most valuable player, and he helps them win the pennant and then eventually the World Series. When Robinson started to perform admirably on the baseball diamond, that's when his teammates came around, and that's when a lot of fans came around as well.
What about the treatment that he received from sports writers, like some who are contributing to this book?
Oh, this is a great topic. So it seems that when he shattered the color barrier in 1947, the ones who really placed that story in context, the story of Jim Crow and racism in U.S. history, and really attended to the significance of that day and saw the promise for Black America, were those members of the Black press who had been clamoring and advocating for somebody like Robinson to break the color barrier. But what the white press did at the time is to ignore really the legacy of racism in the country. They didn't put the story of Robinson's barrier-breaking event into context. Why? Because they were part of the racism. They were part of the Jim Crow barrier that was built in Major League Baseball. Many of them were silent about it. There were some white newspaper reporters who had been clamoring for a Black player, but most of the white media were silent, and they refused to place the story in its proper context and to see its significance.
I thought it was interesting as I was reading through some of the reaction, also some of the different themes in this collaboration, and to come across this idea that his widow, Rachel Robinson, didn't want the myth of her husband, Jackie, breaking this color barrier to overshadow the actual man and what he was really like. The myth and the man are, well, in some cases, they are the same. In many cases, they are not. And that's the part that I really hope this book pulls the cover back on, because people should know the real Jackie Robinson and not the movie Jackie Robinson or the man that he's made out to be all these years later.
Right. You know, Rachel Robinson has been really committed to advancing her husband's legacy. Nobody has done it better. She has created the Jackie Robinson Foundation, and she's been insisting all along that Robinson was much more than a baseball player. This is her emphasis. She says that her late husband was what she calls, quote, an informal civil rights leader, and she's right about that. You know, Dr. King said that Jack Robinson was a sit-inner before the sit-ins, a freedom rider before the freedom rides, and that he, Dr. King, could not have done what he did without the pioneering role of Jack Robinson. That's true. And Jackie Robinson committed or continued his commitment to civil rights throughout his life.
What about his legacy do we have correct or incorrect in 2021, Mike?
I think what we don't have correct is that we see Robinson as merely a historical figure who doesn't speak to us today. Robin speaks to us really loudly and clearly today because we're dealing with some of the same issues that he dealt with. He dealt with police brutality. In 1970, he found himself supporting the Black Panthers, believe it or not, when they faced police brutality. Robinson himself had a police officer pulled guns on him on several different occasions. He knew the dangers of that, and he spoke about it loudly and clearly. And so his legacy, just on police brutality alone, matters today. And I hope that Major League Baseball will tend to that part of Robinson's legacy.
The book is called 42 Today, and it's the Jackie Robinson story, but also his legacy told with various writers and storytellers and reporters. And Michael G. Long is the editor and with us here after hours on CBS Sports Radio. How did Jackie Robinson get to the point where he was the one who was ready, well, as ready as anybody could be, to break this color barrier and to face the tide that came at him, the racism, of course, the opposition. But as you describe, he was defiant enough and had this attitude where really he was not going to fail in this, and he wasn't going to be a sheep in it either. Where did that spirit come from?
Yeah, there's this one point in 1947, Amy, when the Dodgers are squaring off against the Phillies. And Robinson says that at that point, when Ben Chapman and the Phillies in the dugout are all hurling racist insults at him, he felt like throwing that baseball bat down, marching over to the dugout, and using what he calls his despised black fist to pummel those white sons of you-know-whats into the ground. That fiery reaction, I think, came from his mother, Mally, who instilled within him this great sense of dignity and the color of his skin. She taught him the Adam and Eve story. She taught him that Adam and Eve were originally black, and then they were scared white when God caught Eve eating of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. And so she taught Robinson that the color of his skin was God ordained. He grew up believing in the color of his skin, and I think it's that sense, and the sense that freedom was the thing to be fought for here and now, that really fueled him in 1947 and beyond.
It's interesting because the debate wages now about whether or not in 2021 athletes should wade into the arena of politics, but athletes have that individual choice. Beyond that, even the debate rages about whether or not sports leagues like MLB, like the NFL, like the NBA should wade into that arena of politics. It's again, an ongoing debate. It's one that's very divisive, and yet in 2021, we're talking about decades later because we've seen it. We saw it with Jackie Robinson in the way that he integrated politics into his story and into his integration into baseball.
Major League Baseball has always been political on some level, right? And they've tended to be socially conservative. They still tend to be socially conservative. And Robinson believed that athletes should use their celebrity status to advance civil rights. He was hard on his fellow athletes who didn't do so. He was hard on Willie Mays, for example. He was hard on Frank Robinson. He thought that Robinson sacrificed politics to become a manager. He didn't see Frank Robinson become a manager, but he thought that Robinson was angling for that position and being quiet about politics. And he criticized Frank Robinson and so many other athletes for that. He believed that athletes had a responsibility to serve, especially the black audience, but their country at large by criticizing the country when it needed to be criticized and by praising it when it needed to be praised.
You're the author and editor of 3 other books on Jackie Robinson. So as we let you go, what makes this one unique and special?
I think what makes this one special is not only its connection to contemporary society and culture and politics, but we get to see in Robinson this multidimensional, complex, complicated figure that we don't get to see in Hollywood films and that we don't get to see in most books about Robinson. This is a guy who dug deep in 1947, tapped inner resources, and he swallowed all those insults, turned them into muscle, and then succeeded when he was facing incredible pressure, death threats even. And then he took that aggression and fought for civil rights the rest of his life. We get that complete character of Jackie Robinson in this book.
Michael G. Long is the editor of a brand new compilation about Jackie Robinson, and it is perfect for this Thursday, April 15th, which is Jackie Robinson Day. Michael G. Long again, and the book is called 42 Today, Jackie Robinson and His Legacy. And it sounds like an amazing compilation and a different view, a multidimensional view of the man who broke the color barrier in baseball. I appreciate a couple of minutes. Thank you so much for your time, sir.
Amy, you have an awesome show. Thanks so much for having me on.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that so much. In my emails with Michael, we were kind of going back and forth and talking about this idea, discussing this idea. And it's not, we wouldn't call it a movement, but I don't know, I guess idea would be the right way. The theory that it might be better to bring 42 back to Major League Baseball. So now it's retired by all teams. It's retired by the league. But maybe bringing 42 back onto the field and allowing others to wear it would increase the conversation or keep it more prominent than just on April 15th, which is annually Jackie Robinson Day. It's certainly a day to celebrate, but it wasn't something that was celebrated when it happened in 1947. And so, yes, there's the movie Jackie Robinson, and I hope that baseball fans know at least a little bit of what he went through in his battle to be the first, the pioneer. But he was also someone similar to, say, a Muhammad Ali, not a Michael Jordan, who was very outspoken about his political views and criticized for mixing both politics and civil rights and social justice with baseball. But if there was ever anyone who was in a position to do that, certainly Jackie Robinson. It's an unbelievable story of courage and an unbelievable story of defiance for sure. And I'm glad that we had a chance to talk to Michael to understand what's real and what's more make-believe and mythical. You'll hear it a lot. You'll hear a lot of talk about Jackie and his legacy and what he changed for baseball on this day, this Thursday, April 15th. I cannot believe we are 3 hours down in our show. Holy cow.
Oh, thanks, everyone. I have two announcements. First, we didn't use Easy Cater for this meeting, which is why the food never arrived. Also, and I just thought of this, effective immediately, everyone will be paid in wildly volatile cryptocurrency. You're all now billionaires. And now you're broke.
Bad ideas happen when there's no food for the meeting. So make sure it's on time and as ordered from more than 80,000 restaurants. Now, Easy Cater.
You're rich again. And now you're not.
Order 24/7 on EasyCater.com.
Hi, I'm Gigi Gorgeous. I'm a YouTuber, model, actress, author, and host of Queerified, a new podcast I'm doing with my longest friend ever and BFF, Mimi. Come listen every week as we talk to special guests in the LGBTQIA+ community and some allies too.
This is a space that's safe for you. Please listen to and follow Queerified, available now for free on Odyssey, Apple Podcasts, and wherever you get your podcasts.